Hello, my wonderful English learners, and welcome back to the Best English Podcast. I'm your host, Sophia, and today we are diving deep into a topic that I truly believe is one of the most powerful, yet so often, so easily underestimated, tools for achieving true English fluency: the power of reading. You know, the power of reading. It's really this invaluable tool for boosting your English fluency. And in this episode, we're going to delve right into how reading expands your vocabulary, how it naturally improves your grammar, and how it provides this incredible, organic exposure to the language, ultimately helping you speak English with so much more confidence. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Perhaps you're sitting there, listening to my voice, and a little voice in your head is saying, reading. But I want to speak English. I want to understand conversations. How can simply looking at words on a page possibly help me with that? And that, my friends, is exactly the fascinating question we're going to explore today. We're going to uncover why reading isn't just a passive activity, something you do quietly in a corner, just absorbing information. No. It's an active, dynamic superpower, something that can truly transform your English skills from the inside out, actually rewiring your brain for fluency. Over the next hour or so, we're going to embark on a journey together. A journey through the incredible, often surprising benefits of reading. We'll gently, and I mean gently, debunk some common myths that might be holding you back. We'll share inspiring, real-life stories from learners just like you, people who have walked this very path and seen remarkable, even life-changing transformations. And of course, I'll equip you with practical, actionable strategies to make reading an enjoyable, deeply rewarding, and highly effective part of your English learning journey. So, whether you're an intermediate learner feeling a bit stuck, perhaps hitting a plateau and wondering how to break through, or you're just starting to feel more comfortable with the language and looking for your next big step, this episode is absolutely, truly for you. So I invite you to grab a warm cup of tea or your favorite beverage, find a comfortable spot, and let's unlock the immense power of reading together. Are you ready? Let's go. Let's begin by truly understanding the why. The deep reason behind reading's incredible effectiveness. It's not just a vague feeling or a piece of advice someone once gave you. No. There's a profound science, a real neurological process, behind how reading interacts with our brains and accelerates language acquisition. Think of it this way. When you read, your brain isn't merely decoding symbols on a page. Oh no, it's actively engaged in a complex process of pattern recognition, contextual analysis, and subconscious absorption, all of which are absolutely vital for developing true fluency. It's like a secret language gym for your brain. One of the most immediate and powerful benefits is vocabulary acquisition through context. Imagine for a moment trying to learn a new English word by simply memorizing its definition from a dictionary. It's a bit like trying to understand a complex animal by just looking at a static picture of it. You might learn its name, perhaps even a few basic facts, but you won't truly grasp how it moves, what its habits are, what it eats, or where it lives in its natural environment. Right? Reading, however, introduces you to new words precisely in their natural habitat, nestled within sentences, woven into paragraphs, and brought to life within compelling stories. This is what we call contextual learning, and let me tell you, it's a game changer. When you encounter a word like elated in a sentence, your brain doesn't just see a string of letters, Instead, it automatically springs into action, trying to guess its meaning based on the surrounding words and the overall theme of the passage. For instance, if you read, "After receiving the good news about her scholarship, Sarah felt elated and couldn't stop smiling for the rest of the day," you immediately connect elated with a strong positive emotion, a joyful event, and a physical expression of happiness. The context breathes life into the word, making its meaning stick in your mind far more effectively than any dictionary definition ever could, because you've experienced it in action. Even if your initial guess isn't perfectly accurate, the very act of guessing, combined with seeing the word used repeatedly in different contexts, helps solidify its meaning and nuances in your long-term memory. It's truly remarkable. Beyond individual words, reading is an unparalleled master teacher of natural grammar and sentence structure absorption. Grammar rules can often feel overwhelming, can't they? All those intricate tenses, the endless prepositions, the elusive articles. It's enough to make anyone's head spin, honestly. But when you immerse yourself in reading, your brain is constantly, almost magically, exposed to correct grammatical structures. You're not just learning rules, you're seeing how native speakers effortlessly build elegant sentences, how they connect complex ideas with seamless transitions, and how they employ different tenses naturally and appropriately in real-world communication. It's remarkably similar to how children acquire their first language. They don't sit down with grammar textbooks, they absorb the rules intuitively by listening to their parents and others around them, and eventually by reading. Over time, as you read more and more, your brain begins to recognize these patterns subconsciously. You start to develop an intuitive understanding of what sounds right, and, equally important, what sounds wrong. You might not be able to articulate why a particular sentence is grammatically correct, but you'll just feel that it is. This intuitive sense, this gut feeling for the language, is absolutely crucial for speaking English fluently, confidently, and naturally. Consider the subtle difference between "I have been reading" and "I was reading." While a grammar lesson might explain the perfect continuous versus the past continuous, after reading dozens of stories where these tenses are used correctly, your brain starts to build a mental map. You'll subconsciously notice that "I have been reading" often connects to an action that started in the past and continues into the present, or has a present effect, while "I was reading" describes an action happening at a specific point in the past. This deep subconscious learning is truly a gift from consistent reading. This leads us directly to another profound benefit: developing an intuitive sense of English, the feel for the language. This goes beyond mere grammar, you see. Reading helps you cultivate a natural rhythm and flow, an ear for idiomatic expressions, and an understanding of common phrases that aren't always literal. It's about recognizing the subtle cues, the unspoken implications, and the cultural nuances that make English sound truly natural and authentic. Think of it like learning to play a musical instrument. You can diligently learn all the notes, scales, and chords, right? But to truly play beautifully, to make the music sing, you need to develop a profound feel for the melody, its rhythm, its emotion, and its expressive power. Reading provides that very feel for English. You begin to anticipate what comes next in a sentence. You understand implied meanings without them being explicitly stated, and you become more attuned to the subtle ways in which native speakers express themselves. It's about becoming a more sophisticated and perceptive user of the language. And finally, reading is a powerful engine for boosting comprehension and critical thinking skills. At its core, reading isn't just about decoding individual words, it's about understanding complex ideas, following arguments, and grasping the bigger picture. When you read, you're constantly exercising your comprehension muscles. You're identifying main ideas, discerning supporting details, understanding the author's purpose, and even making inferences, that is, understanding things that are not directly stated but are strongly implied. For intermediate learners, this skill is particularly vital because it helps you move beyond simply understanding isolated words to grasping the overall message and the relationships between ideas. This ability directly translates to improved listening comprehension as you become better at processing spoken information, and even to speaking as you become more adept at organizing your thoughts and expressing complex ideas coherently. Moreover, reading actively encourages critical thinking. It prompts you to question what you read, to evaluate the author's arguments, to consider different perspectives, and ultimately, to form your own informed opinions. It's a mental workout that strengthens your cognitive abilities in English, building those neural pathways. Despite these incredible, undeniable benefits, I've noticed that many English learners hesitate to truly embrace reading. It's almost as if some common myths have taken root, holding them back from this powerful tool. So, let's gently, but firmly, tackle some of these misconceptions that might be preventing you from unlocking your full potential. The first and perhaps most pervasive myth is reading is boring. Oh, if I had $1 for every time I heard that. But here's the truth, my friends. If you find reading boring, it's almost certainly because you haven't found the right material yet. Imagine someone declaring, music is boring, simply because they've only ever listened to one genre that doesn't resonate with them. It's the same with reading. English offers an absolutely vast, boundless universe of books, articles, blogs, and stories on every conceivable topic under the sun. From thrilling mysteries that keep you on the edge of your seat, to epic fantasies that transport you to magical realms, to inspiring biographies of remarkable individuals, and practical self-help guides that offer valuable life lessons. There is truly something for everyone. The absolute key, the secret ingredient, is to find what genuinely interests you. When you read about something you're passionate about, something that sparks your curiosity or ignites your imagination, reading stops being a chore, a task to be endured, and instead transforms into an exciting adventure, a delightful escape. Trust me on this one. Another common misconception is it's too difficult. And yes, I completely understand that feeling. Trying to dive straight into a complex academic paper or a classic novel like Shakespeare when you're an intermediate learner can indeed feel overwhelmingly difficult, and that's perfectly, absolutely fine. The mistake isn't that reading is hard. The mistake is often trying to start at the wrong level. The true beauty of reading for language learning lies in its incredible flexibility. You can choose materials specifically designed to match your current level. There are wonderful, graded readers that thoughtfully simplify vocabulary and grammar. Delightful children's books that are surprisingly engaging, even for adults, compelling young adult novels, and even news articles specifically written in simpler English for learners. My advice is always to start small. Build your confidence with materials that feel comfortable, and then, gradually, gently, challenge yourself as you grow. Remember, the journey is about progress, not about achieving immediate perfection. Every page read is a step forward, a little win. Then there's the myth that causes so much frustration. I need to understand every single word. This is a major roadblock that stops many learners in their tracks. But here's the liberating truth. You absolutely, emphatically do not. If you were to stop and painstakingly look up every single unknown word, reading would quickly become a frustrating, agonizingly slow, and ultimately demotivating experience. Think about it. When you read in your native language, do you truly understand every single obscure word? Probably not. You instinctively use the surrounding context to guess. You get the general meaning, and you move on, trusting your brain to fill in the gaps. The same principle applies to English. Your goal should be general comprehension. If you understand the main idea of a sentence or a paragraph, and you can make an intelligent guess about the meaning of most unknown words from the context, then you are doing incredibly well. Only pause to look up words that seem absolutely crucial to understanding the overall meaning of the text, or words that appear repeatedly, suggesting they are important. Over time, you'll be amazed at how naturally your vocabulary grows, and you'll find yourself reaching for that dictionary less and less often. It's a beautiful process. And finally, the myth that can be so discouraging. Only native speakers can read well. Absolutely not. This is simply, unequivocally, not true. Reading is a skill, just like playing a musical instrument or riding a bicycle, and it can be developed and mastered by anyone, regardless of their native language. In fact, I've seen countless non-native speakers become incredibly proficient, even brilliant, readers in English, sometimes even surpassing native speakers in their expansive vocabulary and their deep understanding of complex texts, precisely because they have actively and intentionally worked to build those skills. Your background, your unique journey, is an asset, not a limitation. Embrace it. To truly illustrate the profound, life-changing power of reading, let me share a few stories. These are composite stories, inspired by the incredible journeys of many English learners I've had the privilege of encountering, each one a testament to the transformative impact of this simple yet powerful habit. Consider Anya's breakthrough. Anya, an intermediate English learner from Ukraine, was experiencing immense frustration, particularly with her speaking. She found that she could understand a great deal when people spoke to her, and she could write fairly well. But when it came to speaking, her words would just get stuck. It was as if there was a block, a wall, between her thoughts and her mouth. She felt a profound lack of vocabulary, and when she did speak, her sentences often sounded unnatural, clunky, not quite right. She diligently practiced speaking with tutors, but the progress, though present, felt agonizingly slow, almost imperceptible. One day, her tutor, a wise and observant woman, suggested something entirely different, something that seemed counterintuitive to Anya's goal of speaking. "Anya," she said gently, "I want you to start reading for pleasure. Find something, anything at all, that genuinely interests you, and just read." Anya was skeptical, to say the least. She adored fantasy novels in Ukrainian, losing herself for hours in magical worlds. But reading them in English seemed like an insurmountable mountain, filled with unknown words and confusing grammar. Her tutor, understanding this apprehension, recommended a series of graded readers, simplified versions of popular fantasy books carefully crafted for learners. Anya decided to give it a try, albeit with a heavy sigh. She started with just 15 minutes a day, perhaps during her lunch break or before bed. At first, it was slow, painstaking work. She had to pause frequently to look up crucial words, and sometimes she found herself rereading sentences, even entire paragraphs, just to grasp the meaning. But because the story itself was so engaging, so captivating, she found herself compelled to keep going, to discover what happened next. Soon, those initial 15 minutes stretched effortlessly into 30, then an hour, then even longer. She devoured the first book, then eagerly moved on to the second, then the third. What happened next was truly remarkable, almost magical. Anya began to notice that when she spoke, words that she had only seen in her books, words that had previously been passive knowledge, started to appear naturally, effortlessly in her conversations. Phrases and grammatical structures she had read repeatedly, those elegant turns of phrase, began to flow from her tongue without conscious effort, without her having to stop and think about the rules. She wasn't just recalling vocabulary, she was producing it, integrating it seamlessly into her spoken English. Her sentences became noticeably more complex, more natural, more fluid. Her confidence soared, not just in speaking, but in her overall ability to express herself in English. Anya realized with a profound sense of clarity that reading wasn't just about understanding, it was about internalizing the language, about building a deep subconscious reservoir of English that she could draw upon at will. Then there's the story of Hiroshi's cultural connection. Hiroshi, a talented Japanese engineer, needed English primarily for his work. He was highly proficient in technical English, able to read complex manuals, and communicate effectively about engineering concepts. However, he felt a distinct disconnect when trying to understand cultural nuances or engage in more casual, light-hearted conversations with his international colleagues. He longed to understand the unspoken parts of English, the subtle humor, the common cultural references, the way people truly interacted beyond formal business discussions. He wanted to feel more integrated, more genuinely connected. So he began a new habit. He started reading American and British short stories, then gradually moved on to popular nonfiction books about history, contemporary society, and even current events. Through these books, Hiroshi didn't just learn new vocabulary or grammatical structures. He learned about different perspectives, about social customs, about the historical events that had shaped the English-speaking world. He read about holidays, about traditions, about common jokes and cultural inside references that had previously flown right over his head. This consistent reading gave him a much deeper, richer appreciation for the cultural context of the language. When his colleagues made a casual reference to a historical event, he now had a basic understanding, a point of connection. When they shared a joke, he could often grasp the humor, even if it was subtle. His conversations became richer, more nuanced, and he felt a profound sense of being more connected to his colleagues, not just as professional contacts, but as individuals sharing a common cultural space. Reading had become his personal window into the English-speaking world, a powerful tool that bridged the cultural gap and made his English feel truly alive, vibrant, and deeply meaningful. These stories, and countless others like them, powerfully highlight the transformative impact of reading. It's not merely about accumulating words, it's about building a comprehensive, intuitive understanding of the language, its intricate structure, its rich culture, and its subtle nuances. It's about developing that innate sense that allows you to speak and understand English more naturally, more authentically, and with greater confidence. So, Now that we've firmly laid the foundation and truly grasped the immense why, let's seamlessly transition into the how. We'll delve into the practicalities of choosing the right reading materials, exploring effective reading strategies, and ultimately making reading a truly enjoyable and incredibly productive part of your English learning journey. Welcome back to the Best English Podcast. In our initial segment, we explored the profound why behind embracing reading for English fluency, delving into the scientific and personal benefits. Now, let's move on to the practical how. This is often the point where many learners find themselves a bit stuck, asking questions like, what exactly should I read? There's so much out there, and how do I even begin? Don't worry, my friends. We're going to break it all down, step by step, making it clear and actionable. Finding the right reading material is a bit like finding the perfect pair of shoes. It has to fit just right. If it's too big, you'll constantly trip and stumble. If it's too small, it'll pinch and hurt, making every step uncomfortable. For reading, we affectionately call this the Goldilocks principle. The material should be not too hard, not too easy, but just right for your current level. How do you find this elusive, just right sweet spot? A helpful guideline is the 95 to 98% rule. When you read a page of text, if you understand approximately 95 to 98% of the words without needing to stop and look them up, that's generally considered a good, productive level for you. If you find yourself looking up more than 1 in 20 words, the material might be too challenging, leading to frustration and slow progress. Conversely, if you understand every single word on the page with ease, it might be too easy, and while still beneficial, it might not be challenging you enough for significant growth. Understanding the different levels of reading materials can also guide your choices. First, we have graded readers. These are specifically designed with English learners in mind. They feature controlled vocabulary and carefully simplified grammar structures, progressing in difficulty from absolute beginner to advanced levels. They often retell beloved classic stories or offer original tales, making them engaging. Graded readers are an excellent starting point for intermediate learners, as they provide a gentle, supportive bridge to authentic materials. Publishers like Oxford, Cambridge, and Penguin offer extensive, high-quality graded reader series that are well worth exploring. Then there are simplified texts, which are similar to graded readers, but might be found in online news articles tailored for learners. For example, Voice of America, Learning English or News in Levels, which present current events in simpler language, or simplified versions of nonfiction topics. And finally, our ultimate goal, authentic materials. These are texts originally written for native speakers without any simplification. This is where you'll find the full richness and complexity of the English language. Examples include novels, newspapers, magazines, blogs, and general websites. While this is your eventual destination, it's perfectly fine and often advisable to build up to them gradually. Now, let's talk about genre exploration. Find your passion. This is, without a doubt, the single most important factor in choosing what to read. If you are genuinely interested in the topic or the story, you will be intrinsically motivated to keep reading, even when you encounter a challenging sentence or an unfamiliar word. Don't ever force yourself to read something you find utterly boring just because someone tells you it's good for you. Your passion is your fuel. Consider the vast array of genres available to you. In fiction, you could dive into fantasy or sci-fi, which often feature imaginative worlds and rich, descriptive vocabulary Think simplified versions of the Harry Potter series or The Hobbit. Perhaps mystery or thriller appeals to you. With their fast-paced plots and engaging suspense, Agatha Christie short stories are a classic starting point, or contemporary thrillers. Romance novels often focus on relationships and tend to use more accessible, direct language. Contemporary fiction offers stories about everyday life with relatable characters. And don't overlook young adult, YA novels. They often have incredibly compelling plots and more accessible language than adult literary fiction, making them perfect for many intermediate learners. If nonfiction is more your style, you have a wealth of options. Biographies and memoirs allow you to learn about the fascinating lives of real people. Self-help or personal development books offer practical advice and often use clear, direct language. For current events and specific topics, articles and news are excellent, but remember to start with simpler news sources designed for learners. And in today's digital age, don't underestimate the power of blogs and websites. Find blogs about your hobbies, whether it's cooking, travel, technology, gaming, fashion, or anything else you're passionate about. The language used in blogs is often informal, conversational, and highly engaging. You can even explore online communities like Reddit, finding subreddits on topics you love and reading discussions, or Quora, where you can read answers to a myriad of questions. And for those who love specific TV shows or movies, fan fiction can be incredibly motivating because you already know the characters and the world, making the language acquisition feel more natural and fun. For intermediate learners, here are some specific recommendations to get you started. Begin with graded readers at level 3 or 4 from reputable series like Oxford Bookworm's Penguin Readers or Cambridge English Readers. For young adult novels, titles like The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins, The Giver by Lois Lowry, or Wonder by R.J. Palacio are engaging and generally have accessible language. Short story collections are also fantastic. Look for collections by authors like Roald Dahl. His adult short stories are often witty and accessible. Or O. San Henry. Short stories are less daunting than full novels and provide a sense of accomplishment more quickly. For online news for learners, Voice of America. Learning English, BBC Learning English, and News in Levels are excellent resources. And remember, for blogs on your hobbies, a simple search for Your Hobby Blog English will open up a world of content tailored to your interests. Once you've chosen your material, the next crucial step is understanding how to read effectively to maximize your learning. It's not just about passively letting your eyes glide over the words, it's about active engagement, turning reading into a dynamic learning experience. One of the most powerful techniques is active reading. Engage with the text. Don't just let your eyes passively absorb the words. Be an active participant in the conversation the author is having with you. If it's your own book, don't hesitate to use a highlighter or underline new vocabulary, interesting phrases, or key sentences that resonate with you. Beyond just marking, consider note-taking. Jot down brief summaries of paragraphs, formulate questions you have as you read, or simply record your immediate reactions to the text. This forces you to process the information more deeply. Another excellent active reading strategy is summarizing. After you finish a chapter or a significant section, take a moment to try and summarize what happened in your own words, either mentally or by writing it down. This simple act forces you to identify the main ideas and synthesize the information, which is a fantastic comprehension exercise. It's also important to understand that not all reading is the same, and different purposes require different approaches. This is where skimming and scanning come in. Skimming means reading quickly to get the main idea or the gist of a text. When you skim, you're not reading every word. Instead, you're looking at headings, subheadings, the first and last sentences of paragraphs, and any bolded or highlighted words. Use this technique when you're trying to decide if a text is relevant or interesting enough to read in more detail. Scanning, on the other hand, means reading quickly to find very specific information, such as a name, a date, a number, or a particular keyword. Your eyes will jump across the page, specifically searching for that piece of information. Use this when you're looking for the answer to a specific question. This leads to the idea of reading for gist versus reading for detail. When you first approach a new text, especially if it's a bit challenging, focus on reading for gist. Try to understand the overall message, the main storyline, or the central argument without getting bogged down in every single detail or unknown word. This helps you build confidence and prevents early frustration. Once you have a good grasp of the gist, you can then go back and read for detail. This involves rereading sections more carefully, paying closer attention to specific information, subtle nuances, or those challenging sentences that initially puzzled you. You'll be surprised how much more you notice the second time around. Now, let's address the biggest hurdle for many learners: dealing with unknown words. This is your secret weapon: context. The biggest mistake learners make is stopping at every single unknown word and immediately reaching for a dictionary. Resist this urge. Your number one tool is contextual clues. Look at the words surrounding the unknown word. What kind of sentence is it? Is the unknown word a noun, a verb, an adjective? Does the sentence convey a positive or negative feeling? Often, the surrounding words will give you a strong hint. For instance, if you read, "The old house was dilapidated, with broken windows and a crumbling roof," even if you don't know dilapidated, the phrases broken windows and crumbling roof strongly suggest it means something like in bad condition or falling apart. Based on these clues, make an intelligent guess. Don't be afraid to be wrong. The very act of guessing helps your brain process the word and its potential meaning. As for when to use a dictionary and how not to overuse it, only look up words that are absolutely essential to understanding the main idea of the text. Also, prioritize looking up words that appear repeatedly, as they are likely important to the overall meaning. If possible, use an English dictionary, as it helps you stay immersed in the language. If that's too difficult initially, a bilingual dictionary is fine, but try to transition to English as you progress. Always pay attention to the example sentences in the dictionary. They provide invaluable context for how the word is used. And again, I cannot stress this enough. Do not look up every single word. Seriously, resist that urge. A technique that many learners find surprisingly effective, though it might feel a little strange at first, is reading aloud. This has immense benefits. Firstly, it's fantastic for pronunciation practice. You hear yourself speak, which allows you to identify and correct any pronunciation errors you might be making. Secondly, you start to develop a natural rhythm and intonation, which is absolutely vital for sounding fluent and natural in English. Thirdly, it helps bridge the gap between the words you see on the page and the words you say, effectively connecting written and spoken English. And finally, as you read aloud more smoothly and confidently, your overall confidence in speaking will naturally grow. And don't ever be afraid to rereading for deeper understanding and retention. Your first read-through can be focused on getting the gist, enjoying the story, and simply flowing with the text. But then, go back for a second read. This time, pay more attention to new vocabulary you might have missed, interesting sentence structures, or sections you found particularly challenging. You'll be genuinely surprised at how much more you notice and understand the second time around. Rereading is a powerful way to solidify new language in your long-term memory, ensuring it's not just fleeting knowledge. Let me share a story that beautifully illustrates the power of finding your reading niche. This is Maria's genre discovery. Maria, an intermediate learner from Brazil, loved reading in her native Portuguese, but she struggled immensely to find English books that truly captivated her. She tried a few classic novels, perhaps because she felt she should, but the language felt overwhelmingly dense, the plot slow, and she quickly lost interest, feeling defeated. She began to believe that reading in English simply wasn't for her, that she lacked the patience or the ability. One day, a friend, noticing Maria's love for a particular type of thrilling, character-driven story, recommended a popular young adult dystopian novel. Maria was hesitant, filled with the usual skepticism, but she decided to give it a try, thinking, "What do I have to lose?" To her genuine surprise, she was absolutely hooked from the very first chapter. The fast-paced plot, the incredibly relatable characters, and the surprisingly accessible language made it utterly impossible for her to put the book down. She found herself reading late into the night, eagerly turning pages, desperate to know what happened next in the gripping narrative. As she devoured the entire series, Maria realized something profound, something that shifted her entire perspective. She wasn't reading because she had to. She was reading because she wanted to. Because she was so deeply invested in the story, her brain was highly engaged, almost effortlessly absorbing new vocabulary and grammatical structures. When she encountered an unknown word, she'd often guess its meaning correctly, not because she was a genius, but because the story's context was so clear, so compelling, that her brain could easily infer the meaning. This discovery, this simple realization of finding her preferred genre, completely transformed her approach to English learning. From that moment on, she actively sought out more YA novels, then confidently moved on to contemporary fiction and even ventured into some nonfiction books related to her hobbies, like sustainable living and travel. Her reading fluency skyrocketed, and more importantly, she rediscovered the pure joy of reading, a joy that fueled her English learning journey far beyond what any textbook or grammar exercise ever could. Maria's story perfectly illustrates that the what you read is just as important, if not more so, than the how. When you find your niche, when you discover the stories and topics that truly resonate with you, reading becomes a powerful, self-sustaining engine for progress. We've now covered the why, the what, and the how of reading for English fluency. Now, let's move into the realm of practical application and deep dive, exploring how you can truly maximize every word you read. This segment is all about active engagement, integrating reading seamlessly into your daily life and turning it into a dynamic practice for all your English skills. First and foremost, let's talk about integrating reading into your daily routine. Consistency, my friends, is the absolute cornerstone of language learning. Small, regular efforts consistently yield far greater, more sustainable results than sporadic, intense bursts of study. Don't aim to read an entire novel in one sitting, especially when you're starting out. Instead, begin small. Commit to just 15 minutes of English reading every single day. This is a wonderfully manageable amount that won't feel overwhelming or like a heavy burden. You can easily fit it into various pockets of your day, perhaps on your commute to work or school, during a quiet lunch break, just before you go to bed, or even while you're waiting for an appointment. The overarching goal here is to make it a non-negotiable part of your daily routine, as automatic and natural as brushing your teeth. Once those 15 minutes feel easy and comfortable, you can gradually, effortlessly increase it to 20, 30, or even more. But always remember to start small and build from there. Creating a reading habit is about making it easy and enjoyable. To solidify this habit, try to choose a specific time each day. For example, you might decide, every day after dinner, I will read for 15 minutes. Similarly, choose a specific place where you feel comfortable and focused, like I will read in my favorite armchair by the window. Crucially, remove distractions. Turn off notifications on your phone, perhaps even put your phone in another room, and close unnecessary tabs on your computer. And finally, make it enjoyable. Pair your reading time with something you love, like a warm cup of coffee or tea, or some relaxing background music, ideally without lyrics, so it doesn't distract you from the English words. Lastly, setting realistic goals is vital to prevent burnout and maintain motivation. Instead of a daunting goal like, I will read 3 full novels this month, try something more achievable, such as, I will read 1 chapter of my graded reader every day, or I will read 2 articles from my favorite English blog each week, or I will finish this short story collection by the end of the month. Realistic, attainable goals keep you motivated and provide a sense of accomplishment, propelling you forward. Now, let's move beyond just reading. Active engagement. Simply letting your eyes pass over words on a page, while beneficial, isn't enough to truly maximize your learning. To unlock the full potential of reading for fluency, you need to actively engage with the material. This is truly where the magic happens for accelerating your English skills. One of the most effective tools you can create is a vocabulary notebook, your personal dictionary. Forget just highlighting words and hoping you'll remember them. Invest in a dedicated notebook, whether it's a physical one you love to write in or a digital one on your computer or phone. For each new word or phrase you encounter that you want to remember, follow these steps. First, write the word or phrase clearly. Second, write its definition, and if you can, try to write it in English. This forces you to think in the language. If that's too challenging initially, a brief translation is fine, but aim for English definitions eventually. Third, and this is crucial, write the complete sentence from the book where you found it. This provides invaluable context and helps you remember how the word is used naturally. Fourth, write your own sentence using the word or phrase. This forces you to actively produce the language and integrate the new vocabulary into your own mental framework. Fifth, consider noting synonyms, antonyms, or related words to build your lexical network. And finally, if you're a visual learner, draw a small picture or symbol next to the word if it helps you remember its meaning. For example, if you learn the word serene, an adjective meaning calm, peaceful, and untroubled, your entry might look like this. Word, serene. Adjective. Definition, calm, peaceful, and untroubled. Sentence from book. The lake was serene in the early morning light, reflecting the sky perfectly. My sentence. After a long day, I love to sit in my garden. It's such a serene place. Synonyms: tranquil, calm, peaceful. Remember, just writing words down isn't enough. You must review your vocabulary notebook regularly. Make it a habit to quickly flip through it every few days. Beyond single words, pay close attention to entire phrases or grammatical structures that you find particularly useful or interesting. This powerful technique is called sentence mining. When you come across a sentence that expresses an idea beautifully, or uses a grammar point you're struggling with, or simply sounds very natural, copy it down into your notebook. Then, take a moment to analyze why it works. What is the structure? How are the words connected? What effect does it create? And most importantly, try to adapt it to your own context. For example, you might read the sentence, "Despite the challenges, she remained optimistic." You would then note the structure. Despite plus noun phrase, clause. And then you try to create your own sentences using that same structure. Despite the heavy rain, we went for a walk. Or, despite his incredibly busy schedule, he always finds time for his family. This active process helps you internalize complex structures and allows you to use them naturally and confidently in your own speaking and writing. One of the most powerful ways to bridge the gap between reading and speaking is through summarizing and retelling. After you finish each chapter or a significant section of your reading, take a moment to mentally or even verbally summarize what happened. Ask yourself, who are the main characters? What was the main event in this section? What was the key idea or turning point? Even better, retell the story to someone else. This could be a language partner, a patient friend, or even just talking to yourself in the mirror. This exercise forces you to actively recall information, organize your thoughts logically, and produce English spontaneously. It quickly highlights any gaps in your understanding and compels you to actively use the new vocabulary and grammatical structures you've been reading, transforming passive knowledge into active production. Reading doesn't have to be a solitary activity. It can be a wonderful way to connect with others. This is where discussing what you read comes in. Consider joining an English book club. Many online platforms host virtual book clubs specifically for English learners, offering a fantastic opportunity to practice speaking, listening, and critical thinking in a supportive environment. You can also explore online forums or communities dedicated to the books or topics you're reading. Participate in discussions, share your thoughts, and learn from others' perspectives. And of course, find a speaking partner. Discuss your reading with a language exchange partner. Explain what you're reading, share your favorite parts, or talk about any difficulties you're having. This conversational practice reinforces your comprehension and fluency. Finally, for a truly immersive experience, consider connecting reading to listening through audiobooks and podcasts. Many books, especially popular ones, have excellent audiobook versions. A highly effective technique is to read along with the audiobook. This is an excellent way to connect pronunciation with spelling, significantly improve your listening comprehension, and develop a natural rhythm and intonation. Alternatively, you could listen to the audiobook first, then read the book. This approach can help you grasp the gist of the story and then focus on the details during your reading. Or, you could read the book first, then listen to the audiobook. This helps reinforce what you've learned and allows you to hear the language spoken naturally by a native speaker. Additionally, explore podcasts about books. Many podcasts discuss popular books, authors, or literary themes, allowing you to combine your reading interest with valuable listening practice. Let's get even more hands-on with some specific exercises and practice activities you can do directly with your reading material, turning it into a dynamic workbook. One very effective exercise is creating reading comprehension questions. After you've read a paragraph or a short story, challenge yourself to create 2 to 3 questions about the text. You could even ask a friend or language partner to create them for you. For example, if you read a passage like, The old wizard lived in a tall, dark tower on the edge of the Whispering Woods. He spent his days brewing potions and studying ancient scrolls, rarely venturing into the nearby village. You might create questions such as, where did the wizard live? What did he do in his tower? And did he often visit the village? Then, make sure to answer these questions in full, complete sentences. This simple act not only checks your understanding, but also provides valuable practice for your writing and speaking skills. Another engaging activity is vocabulary fill-in-the-blanks. Take a paragraph you've recently read and enjoyed. Choose 3 to 5 new or interesting words from that paragraph. Now, remove those words and replace them with a blank space. Then, challenge yourself to fill in the blanks without looking back at the original text. This exercise is incredibly effective for reinforcing vocabulary recall and active word recognition. For understanding sentence structure, try sentence reordering exercises. Pick a complex or interesting sentence from your reading. Break it down into its individual words or short phrases. Mix them up completely. Then, try to put them back in the correct order, reconstructing the original sentence. For example, if the original sentence was, "Despite the heavy rain, the children played happily in the park," you might mix it up as, "Happily, the children in the park played the heavy rain despite." Your task would then be to reorder them back into the correct sentence. This helps you grasp the underlying structure and flow of English sentences. Finally, dedicate time to pronunciation practice with challenging words or sentences. As you read, identify any words or entire sentences that you find particularly difficult to pronounce. Then, use an online dictionary with an audio function like Merriam-Webster or Cambridge Dictionary to hear the correct pronunciation by a native speaker. Repeat the words or sentences aloud multiple times, focusing intently on the correct intonation, stress, and individual sounds. A powerful tip here is to record yourself speaking these words or sentences, and then compare your recording to the native speaker's pronunciation. This self-correction method is incredibly effective for improving your spoken English. Let me share the inspiring story of David's system for success. David, an intermediate learner from Germany, was incredibly busy. He had a demanding job, a young family, and countless responsibilities. He knew, intellectually, that reading was a crucial component of English fluency, but he struggled immensely with consistency. He would enthusiastically start a new book, read a few pages, perhaps a chapter, and then weeks, sometimes even months, would go by before he picked it up again. He felt a constant pang of guilt and deep frustration over his inability to maintain a regular reading habit. One day, feeling particularly determined, David decided he needed to implement a strict, non-negotiable system. He chose a short, engaging novel, a contemporary thriller he genuinely wanted to read, not something he felt obligated to. He then set a timer for precisely 20 minutes every single evening, right after his children had gone to bed and the house was quiet. He made a conscious effort to put his phone in another room, away from temptation, and ensured he had a comfortable, well-lit reading spot. Crucially, David also started a simple, streamlined vocabulary notebook. He limited himself to looking up only 3 to 5 new words per 20-minute reading session, carefully writing them down along with their context from the book and his own original example sentence. The next day, before he even thought about starting his new reading session, he would quickly review the words he had noted down the previous day. This structured, disciplined approach completely transformed his reading habit. The 20-minute commitment felt entirely manageable, never overwhelming, and the self-imposed limit on vocabulary lookup prevented him from getting bogged down and losing momentum. The daily, quick review ensured that the new words actually stuck in his memory. Within just a few months, David had finished several books, something he hadn't achieved in years. More importantly, he had built a solid, sustainable reading habit that fit seamlessly into his busy life. He began to notice remarkable improvements. His writing became more fluent, his sentences more varied, and he felt significantly more confident in using a wider range of vocabulary in his everyday conversations. David's success wasn't about magically finding more time in his packed schedule. It was about intelligently designing a system that worked for him, a system built on consistency and smart engagement. David's story powerfully underscores the immense importance of finding a system that truly fits your lifestyle, your commitments, and your learning style. Reading isn't about grand, sweeping gestures. It's about consistent, targeted effort, applied intelligently over time. Our final segment on the Best English podcast, as we reach the culmination of our deep dive into the extraordinary power of reading for English fluency. We've journeyed through the scientific foundations, explored effective strategies, and delved into practical applications. Now, it's time to talk about the long game, how to sustain this incredible journey, gracefully overcome the inevitable challenges, and truly embrace the lifelong joy that reading can bring to your English learning and, indeed, to your entire life. Even with the best intentions, the most inspiring stories, and the most effective strategies, you will undoubtedly face moments of frustration or periods where you feel like you're simply not making progress. This is an absolutely normal part of any learning journey, and it's important to acknowledge it. When dealing with frustration and plateaus, remember that it's okay to feel stuck. Language learning is rarely a perfectly linear path. There will be times when you feel like your progress has stalled, or when a particular text feels overwhelmingly difficult. When this happens, don't despair. Instead, switch materials. If a book feels too hard, too boring, or just isn't clicking with you, give yourself permission to put it down and pick up something easier, something more engaging, or something from a different genre. There is absolutely no shame in it. Sometimes, simply revisit easier texts. Going back to a slightly less challenging book, one you found comfortable before, can be a fantastic way to boost your confidence and powerfully remind you of how far you've already come. And if you're truly feeling burnt out, sometimes it's wise to take a short break, but not too long. A day or two away from reading can refresh your mind and renew your enthusiasm. The key is to make sure you get back to it quickly before the habit completely fades. To keep your motivation high, it's essential to practice celebrating small victories. Did you finish a chapter you thought was challenging? That's great. Did you understand a complex sentence without needing to look up any words? Fantastic. Did you manage to read for 15 minutes every single day for a whole week? That's amazing. Acknowledge and celebrate every piece of progress, no matter how seemingly insignificant. These small victories build momentum, reinforce positive habits, and provide the fuel you need to keep going. Consider also finding accountability partners. Share your reading goals with a friend, a language partner, or even your family. Regularly check in with each other about what you're reading, what you're learning, and how it's going. Knowing that someone else is expecting an update or is on a similar journey can be a powerful motivator, providing that gentle nudge when your motivation wavers. And always keep the long-term vision in mind. Remind yourself why you started learning English in the first place and why reading is such an indispensable tool for achieving that ultimate goal. Visualize yourself speaking English fluently, effortlessly, understanding complex conversations, and truly enjoying English media without subtitles. Reading is not just a stepping stone, it is a direct, well-trodden path to that very vision. As your English fluency grows and your confidence blossoms, you can begin to tailor your reading choices to more specific needs or interests. This is where reading for specific skills becomes incredibly powerful. If you're planning to study in an English-speaking country, or if your career requires a higher level of formal language, then reading for academic English should be a focus. Prioritize academic journals and articles in your field of study. You can start by reading just the summaries or abstracts, and then gradually move to full papers as you become more comfortable. Textbooks, even if you're not formally enrolled in a course, are excellent resources. Reading textbooks on subjects you're interested in, whether it's history, psychology, economics, or environmental science, will expose you to formal academic language, complex sentence structures, and specialized vocabulary. Additionally, reading essay examples can help you understand the structure, argumentation, and formal vocabulary used in academic writing. For those whose professional lives demand English, reading for business English is key. Immerse yourself in business news publications like the Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, or Harvard Business Review. Again, start with simpler articles or summaries if the full articles are too challenging. Seek out industry-specific blogs and reports related to your profession. This will not only improve your English, but also keep you updated on your field. And of course, business books on topics like leadership, marketing, finance, or entrepreneurship are invaluable for expanding your business vocabulary and understanding professional discourse. And then, there's the truly joyful aspect of reading for specific interests. This is where reading transcends mere language learning and becomes a source of deep personal enrichment. If you love cooking, dive into English recipes, food blogs, and cookbooks. If travel is your passion, explore travel guides, inspiring travel blogs, or memoirs of adventurers. For the tech-savvy, read technology news sites, product reviews, and articles on new innovations. If history fascinates you, delve into historical nonfiction or biographies of historical figures. When you read about what you genuinely love, what sparks your curiosity and passion, the learning process happens almost effortlessly because you're so deeply engaged. As your fluency continues to grow, you can begin to incorporate some advanced reading techniques. While we won't go into extensive detail here, it's good to be aware of them. Reading critically means not just understanding what the author says, but how they say it, why they say it, and what their underlying assumptions, biases, or perspectives might be. This is a crucial skill for higher-level comprehension and analysis. And then there's inference, the sophisticated ability to understand implied meanings, those things that are not directly stated by the author, but are strongly hinted at or suggested. This skill develops naturally with extensive reading and a deeper understanding of cultural nuances and human communication. Beyond all the practical, tangible benefits for English fluency, let's not forget the sheer, unadulterated joy of reading itself. Books open up entirely new worlds, introduce you to fascinating characters, and expose you to an incredible diversity of ideas and perspectives. It's an unparalleled way to expand your mind, broaden your horizons, and deepen your understanding of the world around you. Reading authentic materials is a direct, intimate window into the culture of English-speaking countries. You learn about their humor, their values, their history, their social customs, and their unique way of life. This cultural immersion makes your English learning richer, more meaningful, and far more enjoyable. Ultimately, reading is a habit that will serve you for your entire life, far beyond the scope of language learning. It is a continuous, inexhaustible source of knowledge, entertainment, and profound personal growth. So, my dear listeners, if there's one single powerful message I want you to take away from today's comprehensive episode, it's this: start reading today. Don't wait for some mythical moment of perfection or for all your grammar doubts to disappear. Start exactly where you are, with what you have, and with what genuinely interests you. Embrace the journey. It's not a frantic race to the finish line, but a marathon of continuous discovery, growth, and enjoyment. Find what you love, and let that passion guide your reading choices. And most importantly, be consistent. Even a mere 15 minutes a day, consistently applied, will make an enormous, perhaps even astonishing, difference over time. The transformative power of reading is not just a theory, it is a profound reality. It's not just about improving your English, it's about opening up new worlds, connecting with new ideas, and becoming a more confident, knowledgeable, and articulate individual. Let me leave you with one final, deeply inspiring story, a true testament to how reading can utterly transform a learner's life. This is Elena's transformed life. Elena, an intermediate learner from Spain, had always viewed English as a necessary evil, a hurdle she had to clear for her career advancement. She studied diligently, attended classes, and completed exercises, but it always felt like a chore, a dry academic pursuit. Her speaking was hesitant, often punctuated by long pauses as she searched for words, and she frequently felt overwhelmed and intimidated when trying to engage in conversation with native speakers. Then, quite by chance, she discovered a series of historical fiction novels set in England. Elena harbored a deep, lifelong love for history, and these books, with their vivid descriptions and compelling characters, brought the past to life in a way no textbook ever had. She started reading them during her daily commute, then found herself eagerly picking them up during her lunch break and even before going to sleep. She found herself eagerly anticipating her reading time, a genuine sense of excitement bubbling within her. As she immersed herself in these stories, Elena didn't just learn English, she learned about British history, about social customs of different eras, and even about the intricate emotional landscapes of the characters. She began to notice with a newfound appreciation how the authors meticulously crafted dialogue, how they skillfully built suspense, and how they used rich, descriptive language to paint vivid pictures in her mind. This deep immersion in stories had a profound, almost miraculous effect on her language skills. Her vocabulary expanded exponentially, not just with random words, but with words that fit naturally into the historical and cultural contexts she was reading about. Her understanding of complex sentence structures deepened significantly, allowing her to grasp more nuanced meanings. And crucially, when she spoke, she found herself effortlessly using a wider range of vocabulary and more natural flowing phrasing. But the most significant transformation wasn't just in her English proficiency. Elena became a more confident, articulate communicator in general. She started engaging in deeper, more meaningful conversations with her international colleagues, sharing fascinating insights she'd gained from her reading, and even confidently recommending books to them. Her newfound love for reading in English ignited a broader passion for lifelong learning, and she realized with immense joy that English wasn't just a utilitarian tool for work. It was a vibrant gateway to a richer, more connected, and infinitely more interesting life. Reading had truly transformed her, not just her language skills, but her entire outlook and sense of self. Elena's story is a beautiful testament to the fact that reading is not merely a language learning technique. It is a life-enriching habit, a source of endless discovery and joy. And that, my dear listeners, brings us to the end of this comprehensive journey into the power of reading for English fluency. I genuinely hope you feel inspired, equipped, and excited to embark on your own unique reading adventure. Remember the most important takeaways from our conversation today. Reading is a powerful force that builds your vocabulary, intuitively improves your grammar, and cultivates that essential feel for the English language. Always strive to find materials that genuinely interest you and ensure they are at the just right level for your current proficiency. Engage actively with what you read. Take notes, summarize, and discuss your insights with others. Be consistent, even if it's just 15 minutes a day. Those small, regular efforts compound into remarkable progress. And never forget to celebrate every single victory along the way, no matter how small it may seem. For those eager to start, you can find a wealth of graded readers and online resources by simply searching for English graded readers or News and Levels for English Learners. Don't forget to explore your local libraries or online bookstores for a vast and diverse selection of materials. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Best English Podcast. Keep reading, keep learning, and keep growing. I'm Sophia, and I'll talk to you next time.